The Senate Committee on Government Affairs will come to order. Madam Secretary, please call roll. We'll take them in the same order.
Senator Warrenshaw. Here. Senator Goycochea. Here. Senator Daly. Here. Senator Krasner. Here. Chair Flores.
Present. Do we have Senator Pezzina here? That's fine. No issue. Welcome to the Senate Committee on Government Affairs. Thank you all for being here today, as always. I want to remind folks to please silence your cell phone. It's always my reminder to do the same. As always, the members are following along on their laptops. Please don't take it as a sign of disrespect. If you see us glued to the laptop, we're just most likely looking at the exhibits and looking up information related to a particular bill. I also want to remind folk who intend to participate in the process and engage in dialogue that you state your name for the record after each question. If you could please provide our committee secretary with your card and or information so that we have that for the minutes. In addition to that, should you wish to provide any written testimony, please know that if you provide that to our team, they can upload that and make sure that it gets recorded for that particular bill hearing. With that, we have 3 items on the agenda for today. We will take the items in the order they appear. We have 2 bill presentations followed by public comment. And with that, we'll go ahead and open up Senate Bill 19. Welcome whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores, Vice Chair Orenshaw, and members of the committee. My name is Joanna Jacob. I am Government Affairs Manager for Clark County. I'm very pleased to be before you this afternoon to present Senate Bill 19, sponsored by Clark County. I'll just introduce our team that we have in place because we're in multiple sites. Down in Las Vegas at the Grant Sawyer building, and I see them at the table. I have Rosemary Vasiliadis, our Director of Clark County Department of Aviation, accompanied by James or Jim Crisley, who is our Senior Director for the Department of Aviation and the lead project manager of type for this project we'll be talking about today, which is the Southern Nevada Supplemental Airport. Also, I believe in the audience, I have Nancy Amundsen in Vegas, our Comprehensive Planning. She's the Director of Comprehensive Planning, here for any technical questions. And then Kendra Follett, right here in the front, from the law firm of Sherman Howard. She assisted us with the drafting of this legislation, also here to answer any technical questions and provide information to the committee as we move forward. So, Mr. Chair, Clark County is bringing this bill to continue the planning process for the supplemental Southern Nevada Airport, which was known perhaps earlier to the members of the committee as the Ivanpah site. Our existing airport, Harry Reid International, is a vital economic resource for Southern Nevada and the state overall. Clark County's Department of Aviation owns and operates various airport facilities, including Harry Reid International Airport, and we have experienced robust growth as Las Vegas has become a major leisure and destination market and conference venue. The forecasted growth that we have for aviation demand cannot be accommodated in the future at the present site. Thus, we have begun planning, and we've been planning for a number of years for the construction and operation of the Southern Nevada Supplemental Airport. It's intended to provide long-term aviation capacity for our community in primarily serving operations such as charter flights, long-haul domestic, and international flights. So we have a brief presentation because there's a lot of interest in this project for you, Mr. Chair, and this, I believe, will be helpful context as we later walk through the bill. So I'm going to ask your permission, and hopefully Mr. Crisley and Ms. Vasiliadis are ready for me in Southern Nevada. They are bringing up the presentation down south. They are my experts on this, and they'll be able to walk through just a brief overview of the project and where we are, and then we can hand it back to me, and I'll go through the bill. So thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. Mr. Chair, this is Rosemary Vasiliadis, Director of Aviation for Clark County. In the interest of time for this presentation, I will turn it over to Mr. James Crisley, Senior Director for the Clark County Department of Aviation, and be happy to take any questions afterwards. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Rosemary and Joanna. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Hopefully you guys can see my slides on the screen. If not, we'll have them transition to that here. If we could get the slides up. We truly appreciate the opportunity to provide a brief project update on the proposed Southern Nevada Supplemental Airport, otherwise known as SNSA. As some of you know, the planning for SNSA began more than 20 years ago and was moving forward until the Great Recession of the early 2000s. At that time, the planning work was paused due to economic conditions, but as always, the economy recovered as more and more visitors returned to Las Vegas, the entire Southern Nevada region. It was apparent that Harry Reid International Airport will once again begin to approach capacity, and the need for a second commercial service airport would be needed again. In 2018, Director Vasiliadis went back to the Board of County Commissioners and received approval to resume the planning for SNSA. Today, I'd like to provide a brief synopsis of the prior historical planning efforts, as well as an update on the current efforts since the planning was resumed in 2018. From the first round of planning, there were actually 3 congressional acts that supported and defined the Southern Nevada Supplemental Airport project. The first act was in 2000 and included conveying 6,000 acres. As you look at the map on the slide in front of you, that's the orange rectangle to the east of 15 between Jean and Primm, Nevada on the way to Southern California. That act also identified joint lead federal agencies for the environmental impact statement process. That included both the Federal Aviation Administration and the Bureau of Land Management. So to our luck, we get to deal with 2 federal agencies as we do go through the environmental process of this project. And as a result of that act, Clark County did purchase that 6,000 acres, and as we sit here today, we do own that 6,000 acres of land. The second act included designating 17,000 acres. That's the area, if you look around the orange rectangle on the map, the hatched line that proceeds north and all the way to state line on both sides of the orange rectangle. And what that area was designated for was airport compatibility. So upon a successful record of decision through the environmental impact statement process, the 17,000 acres will be given to the Department of Aviation for airport compatible development. We do not require that 17,000 acres until the record of decision has been issued. The act also established a non-exclusive half-mile wide transportation and utility corridor. That is defined in the gray shading that begins at the north end of the orange rectangle on the east side of I-15 and proceeds all the way, half-mile wide, all the way to Sloan, Nevada. This corridor is going to be used for any transportation and utility support to development of the airport and to provide access to and from the Las Vegas Valley. The third act, as shown on the map in 2015, that identified land for flood control basins to help protect the airport from major flooding events during storms. One is west of the I-15 labeled Good Springs on the map, and a second area east within the east of the 17,000 acres identified on the map as Lucy Gray. These would be for stormwater retention facilities. Those are the congressional acts that surround the development of this project. But just for historical perspective, why was the Ivanpah Valley selected for the Southern Nevada Supplemental Airport? You know, as you can see on the screen, it's from user convenience. We had a direct route via I-15, the ability to offer redundant access with that transportation utility corridor. We'll be able to have an alternative route to the airport instead of I-15. The potential for a transit connection, i.e. the transportation utility corridor could have a rail or other modern technology to support the connectivity of the sites. And it was located at a much greater distance. As Harry Reid, we're fighting incompatible land use all the time, and this will be away from all development and would be able to be developed at a lower cost. And in our current efforts, we have revalidated all those studies with the SNSA site. But due to the facts that LAS is landlocked, you know, we're completely surrounded by development. The DoD airspace restrictions due to Nellis Air Force Base and the Nellis Training Range to the north, and the mountainous terrain that defines the Las Vegas Valley, SNSA is really the only viable location for a second commercial service airport into the Southern Nevada region. So why do we need a second airport? Well, this slide just says, the purpose of this slide is Harry Reid International has a finite capacity. In November of 2022, the FAA determined In 2023, the demand at LAS will begin to exceed capacity on a regular basis. This slide depicts multiple growth scenarios as we move into the future and indicates that delays to passengers will continue to grow as we move forward, and that a second commercial airport will be needed in order to support that forecasted growth of customers wanting to come to the Southern Nevada region, and in order to meet that air travel demand and to ensure the successful growth of the Southern Nevada economy. So current planning efforts, as you see on the slide, we have been working very hard on this since 2018 when planning resumed, but we currently have updated an airport layout, which includes parallel runways, terminal facility, cargo facilities, and all the ground support, et cetera, that needs to be done to create this airport. We've done tons of agency and stakeholder coordination. Brightline West has been on the map. We've been working with them since they've come back to plan their project. Nevada Department of Transportation, obviously I-15 is a key portion of this. So we've been meeting with them on a regular basis for the last few years and identifying utility needs and required plans. And as a result of these efforts, the entire Southern Nevada or Southern Clark County region is now on the SNWA Master Water Plan, the Master Plan for Water Development. So we are part of that future plan, and there is a concept of how we would get water to the entire South Clark County area to include the Southern Nevada Supplemental Airport. We validated all previous studies, as mentioned before. Ground access, we've actually reached out to the public a few times to get their input on how they would like to transit to and from the airport. We've had public outreach and reaching out so they can understand that the airport is coming. We have to analyze the demand and capacity at Harry Reid, which is LAS, and part of that is showing that we do have a finite capacity and we will need secondary commercial service access. We're working on a runway length assessment, and we're also planning for and protecting the 17,000 acres. As I said, we do not get ownership of that 17,000 acres at the Clark County until we get that successful record of decision. And in order to ensure the usefulness of that area, we have to protect it now. So we review all proposals in the area with BLM and our fellow departments within Clark County. And we just had a huge success also in last November. The FAA just initiated an airspace feasibility study. So this is the first phase where they're going to actually look at how this airport, they see the need for the airport and how this airport will fit into the overall airspace system that includes LAS and our other 4 general aviation airports in the valley. In front of you now is our current conceptual schedule. We're currently at approximately year 3 in the planning efforts. We would have been further along, but we did take a slight slowdown during COVID to regroup, but we have resumed efforts. So we're currently underway in all the planning tasks, and including the environmental. We're in the EIS planning work as we speak. We have a regular meeting with our FAA coming up in May that will allow us to further this project along even further. But before we go too far along the lines, we do have to get through an EIS process, which is limited to 2 years through the federal process as we sit today. But we have to get to that notice of intent here in the near future so we can get that 2-year clock running so we can get final record of decision. And the final goal of that end date of construction is hopefully by 2035 to 2037, the airport is operational. And just some of the next steps we know we have to work on, and that's to finalize the aviation forecast. Those change, and what we do know is the demand in Las Vegas is not slowing down with the advent of sporting arenas and new venues and special events. The air travel demand is ever increasing, and we know those forecasts are capturing that, and they will continue to support this project. We're going to continue to explore the utilities. We also have to work on electric, sewer. That's another one. The wastewater reclamation is another coordination effort we have to work on to get the plan in place for that. But we have made progress with that as well, and we'll continue to in the future. We have to do a complete financial analysis of how this airport will be paid for, and we're currently in process with that, evaluating multiple options to include any sort of financial option on the table to help fund this project. And we're going to continue the ground access plan, a wildlife hazard assessment. We have to do a complete update to the airport layout plan again. And finally, one of our big challenges, our big efforts underway now is trying to determine opening day requirements. As we look at the airport, we could see what it could be in the long term, but we really need to hone in on what we need on the first day of operations that will, one, provide meaningful relief to Harry Reid, as well as be a functioning airport in its own right at Southern Nevada Supplemental Airport. So with that, that concludes my briefing, and thank you very much for your time, and I'll turn it back over to Joanna.
Thank you, Mr. Crisley. Joanna Jacob for the record, Clark County Government Affairs Manager. So, Mr. Chair, I'll briefly walk through the bill and give you a brief overview, and then we have our team ready to answer questions. So for purposes of our presentation, I wanted to really focus my overview on the two main sections of the bill, which are Section 13 on page 10 of the bill, and then back to Section 2 of the bill. These are those sections that pertain to Clark County. I will note, you may have noticed this bill is drafted to apply statewide. That was actually we went through this during the drafting process, and that was LCB's request to conform to existing Supreme Court case law about special acts. So I'll go through the Clark County sections, but you'll note that those sections also then are for the counties under 700,000 as well. So I'll start on page 10. Section 13 amends the law allowing counties to form an unincorporated town to allow our Board of County Commissioners to create a town covering the area under the sections that we have under subsection A and B. So you'll see why, after sitting through that presentation, why we have drafted it as thus, because I guess the criteria are if the land has been conveyed or transferred to the county, or authorized or conveyed or transferred to the county under a federal law that is enacted after January 1st, 2000. You will note that when Mr. Crisley went through the legislative history, that is why we chose that date, and conveys or transfers to the county, or authorizes or to be conveyed or transferred, at least 5,000 acres. That was drafted. As you note, that orange section on the map that you have before you is 6,000 acres that we currently own. And it's really limited here under this section for the purpose of developing an airport and any related infrastructure, or addressing the noise compatibility issues related to an airport. And that is because we also have the area that is due to come to us under the process that Mr. Crisley outlined as we complete the environmental review of the additional 17,000 acres that may be coming to the county once we complete that process. We also are asking here for, as you'll see, Section 13, Section 1, subsection B. We've also asked for additional territory in the town to be considered for located not more than 1 mile from any territory described in paragraph A. That is essentially, in the map that you have before you, the green solid line that basically surrounds this site. This is because, as Mr. Crisley outlined, we want to make sure that we are developing the site for compatible use, and that is going to be the area that the FAA and the BLM are going to be looking at. I think that this is really the main thrust of the bill. This is the definition of our town. Section 13 will authorize the board to create this town. It will be created by ordinance, subject to a public hearing, and go through that public process, and that will be coming later. I will also then like to go, if you want to go with me, back to Section 2. And the reason I started at Section 13 is to say this is where we would like to create the town. Then Section 2 of the bill states that a governing body of a city shall not annex into the corporate limits. You'll see that we've basically written into Section 2 the area of the town that we have in Section 13. So that is the area that we have defined as coming to us by federal act for the noise management area, and anything that we have for noise compatibility, et cetera, and then that 1 mile buffer. You'll see in Section 2, subsection 2, we do allow for annexation into the city under certain circumstances, and that is really, we tried to replicate what is the current law about annexation. So you can see we are permitting this to go forward if it's approved by resolution of the Board of County Commissioners, if it occurred before the effective date of this law, should it pass, and or the effective date of any federal law, which was really if it was before, which I guess I'm not sure that that actually happened because our federal law is actually passed earlier. And then we have the territory. Subsection D, I guess at line 31 of section 2, says the territory is located within the boundaries of an area subject to an interlocal agreement. The reason for that language is we have an existing interlocal agreement with the city of Henderson that we entered into with the, around April 2022. And you'll see in the map, I guess that we had also in the slides that there's an orange kind of diagonal line to the north of this site. That is the area that Clark County and the city of Henderson have engaged in a joint land use planning study that we entered into contemplation of future development in this area. At that time, the airport is contemplated and within the scope of that agreement. And so we will be working with the city of Henderson on the area, I guess, there. And that's why we want to be able to have any annexation would be under the terms of that agreement and would be permissible under the terms of that agreement. As I said, the bill has other sections. I think that this is really, I'll run through them very quickly, I guess because this is intended to be a statewide bill. Sections 4, 5, 6, and 7 are really existing law about annexation in our state. You'll see that we have basically directed in the statute that the annexation of any area defined in this bill would be annexed, the annexation rules would be under this legislation. So Section 4 is the process for annexation by a city under NRS 268.570. So we are exempting this town from those rules because we've set forth the annexation rules separately in the statute. The same for Section 5. And then Section 6 is also setting forth criteria for a city's annexation. And so we have set forth the criteria in Section 2. And this is really incorporating Section 7 is an alternate procedure for annexation by petition of the residents. We've also exempted this area from that process as well. You'll see that we tried to incorporate and stay consistent with this in Section 2. So we're just setting the alternate process specific to only this town. Section 3 and Section 8 through 12 apply to the annexation of territories by cities and counties under 700,000. So they replicate what I just went through for you and were added by LCB. We did, when we were working on this bill, reach out to the Nevada Association of Counties and our northern counterparts to see if they had any comments or concerns about those sections. And at the time of this hearing, we had none. So I think that it seems to work statewide. Section 14 to 16 defer, or they permit the county to defer the creation of a town board. When we designate a town, we usually designate a town board to oversee the town. It allows us to defer the timing of this as the site is developed and the airport is constructed. We believe that this can and will be addressed via the ordinance properly noticed and heard in front of the Board of County Commissioners. So I know that that's taking a very long bill down to hopefully very short comments, but that was my overview. We can now stand for questions if there are any from the committee, and thank you for the opportunity to present.
And thank you. And I appreciate all the work you've done before. Obviously, there's a lot happening here, so thank you for the time you've invested in this conversation. We'll open it up for questions. Senator Daley, please.
I'll be quick, Mr. Chair, and thank you for coming to talk to me on this thing earlier. Just a couple things, and I think you went over it in Section 2, subsection 2, regarding the annexation. As I'm reading that, unless the county commission approves, no one's ever going to meet that qualification. But subsection D would allow, if I'm reading it right, Henderson to annex that hashtag area in what would be the northeast section up there, because it's under an interlocal agreement currently that's going to last more than 5 years. So they could annex that with or without the county approval?
Joanna Jacob, for the record, Clark County. That agreement does contemplate joint planning, and so they could, and I'd have to go back and look at the agreement if it's before or after Clark County's approval, but it did set forth separate annexation criteria in the agreement, and I'm happy to file that with the committee or send it to you, Senator Daly. But that's really the idea behind and why we exempted it from the prohibition on annexation is because we contemplated joint collaboration between the city of Henderson and Clark County. And I'm looking to see if there's anything that anybody would want to add from our Clark County team, but I think that's really the idea. Yes, under the terms of the agreement, I guess, and I can probably look it up really quickly and read the section for you. It actually said that there was a promise between Clark County and city of Henderson that we would do the study first before then we started to talk about annexation, and we would jointly agree to that. I know the city of Henderson is here, and they are neutral on the bill because of that agreement, so happy to give you further details. And I see Nancy has come up to the table, and she'll correct me if I misspoke. This is really her domain, and her department is overseeing the agreement.
Hi, Nancy Amundsen. I'm the Director of Comprehensive Planning for Clark County. Thank you for letting me speak. The joint land use study we are working on right now with the City of Henderson is in anticipation of the disposal boundary being expanded down the highway or Interstate 15. So we wanted to make sure that both the county and the City of Henderson had an understanding of what the land use would be for that. We also are looking to protect the airport to make sure that we don't have encroachment that would be impactful to the operation of the supplemental airport. But when we entered into the interlocal agreement, we did determine that there would be no annexation. We would not recommend anything for disposal. We are working together just to make sure that the planning initiative down 15 in that hatched area is consistent with both what the citizens and the City of Henderson want, as well as Clark County.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. So you're saying that the interlocal agreement you have now may have a prohibition until you've done some of this planning on the annexation. But the bill says if only one of the circumstances applies. So theoretically, they could under D, except for the interlocal agreement contemplates differently, and then it could expand further down south in that hashtag area, but the plan is only in the buffer zone and not into the dotted line area where the
Joanna Jacob, for the record.
Again,
Oh, sorry. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. I'll defer to Ms. Amundsen. Thank you.
Nancy Amundsen for the record. The area of the joint land use study is touching the area of the buffer for the airport in just a small area. And right now, the interlocal agreement, you'll see it along down the 15. The interlocal agreement right now prohibits annexation and, again, prohibits us from recommending disposal of anything. What we're trying to do is create a land use planning area that would be adopted by both the Board of County Commissioners and the City of Henderson so that we have continuity. So today, there can be no annexations in that hatched area.
I guess, Joanna Jacob, for the record, I'll just follow up. And when we talked to the city of Henderson, it was that we're doing all this work on our joint study, so we would want any part of that development to be under the terms of the study. So that's why we wrote it into the bill. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you. And that, I was just making sure that I understood it correctly. The second thing is not a question. I'm just, well, it's a question, and maybe you have an answer, maybe you don't. But the way I read this is it technically applies to all of the other 16 counties in the state, but I don't think anyone could actually meet the requirement in order to institute it. So if this was going to happen in northern Nevada, Washoe County, or maybe even one of the adjoining counties, they could still do it. They would probably have to come to the legislature and have a different bill to do this, even though this technically applies to the whole state. no one can meet the criteria. So it would require another bill if Northern Nevada or any other county in the state needed to do something along these lines. They'd have to come in for a piece of legislation, as I understand it. Is that your understanding as well?
Joanna Jacob, for the record, from Clark County. That's our understanding. We could probably talk for hours about whether this would ever happen again. I think on a land grant of this size that would come to the state of Nevada. Right now, in our conversations with NACO, with the Reno airport, with the other counties in the north, that they believe that nothing that the way that we drafted it interferes with current plans that they may have. So yes, if those plans should change, because we can't always tell what's going to come in the future, then yes, they would probably have to come to the legislature. That's why we're coming to the legislature. Is one of the, we need legislative approval to actually create this town, and so I would imagine it will require future legislation should this ever happen again. But right now, as far as we know, this is the only place where the criteria that we have set forth in the bill occurs is in Clark County with respect to this site.
Members, any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you again. And at this time, I'd like to invite forward anybody wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 19, either in Las Vegas or here in Carson City.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Ashley Cruz with Career Nevada, for the record, testifying in support of SB 19 on behalf of our client, Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance. Certainly, air travel in Southern Nevada largely supports the state's travel and tourism economy. It does also support non-gaming economic development opportunities. The LVGEA knows Harry Reid International Airport will soon be at maximum capacity, and the ability to find solutions to increasing air travel in Southern Nevada is important. While this bill as written is largely administrative in nature in order to afford the county the ability to move forward with its various impact studies, the LVGEA supports the measure to ensure this project moves forward. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Paul Moratkin with the Vegas Chamber. The Chamber is also in support of SB 19. As many of you know, the Chamber has been in support of the supplemental airport for over a decade now at the local, state, and federal levels of government. We believe that the Clark County has made the economic case for this from an economic diversification perspective, also for our tourism sector and manufacturing and shipment hub also. In regards to this specific bill, as you heard from the Clark County representative, Section 13 is extensive in its community outreach and notification process and public hearing, especially to Section 13.3. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your time this afternoon.
Excuse me, and thank you. Anybody else wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 19 in Carson City? Seeing none, we'll go to Las Vegas.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Virginia Valentine, and I represent the Nevada Resort Association. And I'm pleased to be here today to support the efforts of Clark County to ensure the orderly planning for the Southern Nevada Supplemental Airport. We'd like to see it continue on schedule, and we're in support of SB 19. As you know, the Southern Nevada economy is continuing to improve. We've got a record number of visitors to the community. The Las Vegas Visitors and Convention Authority has reported that Harry Reid International served 52.7 million passengers, beating 2019's 51.5 million passengers. Over the past year, the LAS single-month passenger record was broken 3 times, with October being the first month ever to surpass 5 million travelers. With business travel still recovering, in 2022, leisure travel has exceeded expectations as visitors have flocked to Las Vegas to enjoy expanded sports offerings and other world-class dining and entertainment options. The ability to support increasing visitor demand is critically important. It's a top priority for all of us. We appreciate that the county has done a lot of planning work, and creating this new township will allow them to provide for the orderly and logical development around the airport area and to protect those airport environs areas and prevent, of course, the kind of development that would prohibit the optimization of the airport lands. So again, thank you for the opportunity to appear, and we urge you to support SB 19.
And thank you. Whoever wishes to go next in Las Vegas. Is there anybody else in Las Vegas? Seeing none, is there anyone wishing to testify in opposition? Oh, excuse me, BPS, do we have anybody on the lines wishing to testify in support?
Thank you, Chair. If you'd like to testify in support of SB 19, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers wishing to testify in support at this time.
Thank you. Anybody wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 19, either in Carson City or Las Vegas? Seeing none, BPS, do we have anybody wishing to testify in opposition on the phone?
If you'd like to testify in opposition of SB 19, please press star 9 now on your phone. Chair, you have no one who would like to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you. And anybody wishing to testify in the neutral position, Carson City or Las Vegas? We'll start here in Carson City.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nicole Rourke, representing the City of Henderson. Although the county has already explained to you the process with the City of Henderson, I just wanted to come and establish our position as neutral for SB 19. Although we would normally support or even be neutral taking away our powers to annex, this is a unique circumstance, and we are working with the county under the interlocal agreement they've described to you for the supplemental airport. The purpose of this interlocal agreement is to jointly fund a study to determine potential future land uses and design standards that both of our elected bodies will approve. And our understanding is that some portion of that area will be within the City of Henderson jurisdiction someday. Through that process, the city is confident that there will be areas that the city is able to annex in the future, although currently prevented. We understand the importance of the Southern Nevada Supplemental Airport to our regions and our state's economy, and appreciate working closely with the county to plan for future growth. Thank you.
And thank you. Anybody else wishing to testify in the neutral position for Senate Bill 19? Seeing none, BPS, do we have anybody on the phone?
If you'd like to testify neutral on SB 19, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers that are neutral at this time.
Thank you. And with that, I'd like to invite Ms. Jacobs to please come back and any closing remarks you may have.
Joanna Jacob for the record. Not a ton of closing remarks here. I just wanted to say thank you to all the committee members for your thoughtful questions and your time. This is a critical project for Clark County. I wanted to thank my Clark County colleagues who came down to share their expertise, and we urge your support. Thank you so much for your support, and the legislature has given to Clark County Department of Aviation. Thank you very much.
And just as a request, and it's not a question now, but just for members of the committee to consider, I remember some conversations years back, I think it was in 2002 or 3, questions about annexation around the Harry Reid Airport. And I recall that there was a construction, I think there was a Walmart that was eventually constructed there, and I believe there was I think there was a soccer park that was also placed there, and there was a whole host of houses that were removed. I think just for the purpose of the committee, I remember there was some backlash and some pushback around those conversations. If you could provide some feedback on that, just because I imagine we'll be having these conversations again in 20 years, or excuse me, not 20, what is it, 10 years approximately, maybe 14 years, right around there. But I think that's just for us to look at and things to consider as we're continuing with this conversation.
Sure, Joanna Jacob for the record. Though I don't know the details of the 2002 and 2003 issues that you described, Mr. Chair, certainly can follow up on that afterwards. But I think what you're alluding to is what Director Vasiliadis and Deputy Director Chrisley had said, is that the challenge that we have for our urban airport is that it is landlocked and people live around it. This is something that we're trying to avoid, in the sense that as we do the future planning, it is with the airport in mind, and so that we can provide for compatible use. This is a very long process, as you noted. I would urge, and because you said for the members of the public, so the public understands what we're doing, there will be ample opportunities as we do this planning for the public to come and engage with the Board of County Commissioners and the Department of Aviation about what they would like to see in that area. And I would think that that would be a very fruitful and thing for the community members to do, so that we were able to work together on compatible use in those areas. And I can certainly follow up if that doesn't address your concern.
Sounds good. Thank you again. And with that, we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Senate Bill 19. And next, I believe we have Senator Pazina, who is here to present Senate Bill 166. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Hardworking Committee on Government Affairs, whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon. Chair Flores, Vice Chair Orenshaw, and members of the hardworking Senate Committee on Government Affairs. For the record, my name is Julie Pazina, and I represent Senate District 12 in Clark County, and I'm here today to present Senate Bill 166 with some of my colleagues. As the committee is aware, in 2019, the legislature approved Senate Bill 135, which authorized collective bargaining between the state and certain state employees, generally those in the classified system of employment. It provides for collective and supplemental bargaining between the executive branch of state government and an exclusive representative for a wide range of subjects, including, but not limited to, salary or wage rates, leave, and employee safety. The bill defined bargaining units for specific employment groups, including separate units for Category 1, 2, and 3 peace officers. Senate Bill 166 before you today seeks to resolve some of the collective bargaining challenges for supervisors who are grouped in with the peace officers and firefighters that they supervise, and there should be an amendment that everyone has as well. This bill allows law enforcement and firefighter supervisors to engage in collective bargaining and allows them to create a collective bargaining unit separate from the employees that they supervise. The bill also recognizes the unique nature of the work conducted by civilians who provide support services in a law enforcement agency and allows them to participate in collective bargaining. I would now like to turn it over to Mr. Richard McCann and then Assemblyman Brian Hibbets, but starting off with Mr. McCann from the Nevada Association of Public Safety Officers to provide additional testimony regarding the origin and need for this legislation.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and staff. My name is Rick McCann. I'm here today representing the Nevada Association of Public Safety Officers and the Nevada Law Enforcement Coalition to present pieces of the SB 166 before you. First, I wish to thank Senator Pazina and Assemblyman Hibbets and all of the joint sponsors and co-sponsors for their support of this bill. It's been a true labor of bipartisan love to put this thing together. Addressing Section 1 in front of you of the bill, existing law, which is NRS 288.138, defines a, quote, supervisory employee as a person who exercises one or more of a list of tasks in the performance of their duties. However, in certain paramilitary structures, such as law enforcement and firefighting, employees are often required to perform some of these tasks in a temporary fashion, such as acting sergeants, acting lieutenants, officers in charge, people who are assuming those supervisory goals and tasks, but not in a permanent state. But they are not considered permanent supervisors. Therefore, in 2019, Senator Harris from this legislature, the statute was amended to its current language that prohibits employees within paramilitary command structures, such as police and fire, from being deemed permanent employees, or supervisors, solely due to the exercise of those certain duties. That's the current state of the law. Now, 166 here in front of you seeks to also exclude civilian law enforcement employees who work under the same paramilitary police structure from being deemed supervisors solely due to the exercise of those same duties. Now, civilian employees who provide support services to law enforcement, I have found, they're vital to this instrument of law enforcement and also to firefighting, to include crime scene investigators, dispatchers, abuse and neglect specialists, cold case investigators, and many more. Those are the kind of employees we are talking about with the civilian side of law enforcement. Civilian employees who provide support services to law enforcement, as I said, are vital to police paramilitary structures, and it's necessary to provide them with the same exclusions and protections that are given to their police command. Now, addressing Section 2 of this bill, existing law permits collective bargaining units for each of the number of occupational groups employed by state, including Category 1, Category 2, and Category 3 peace officers, but not the supervisors of those three groups, just what we'll call the rank and file officers. In fact, supervisors of all occupational groups are lumped into one collective bargaining unit per SB 135 from 2019. Well, that has proven to be unmanageable, as there is essentially no community of interest in having, say, law enforcement supervisors, accounting supervisors, physical therapy supervisors, mental health agency supervisors, state maintenance worker supervisors, administrative and clerical worker supervisors, all in the same bargaining unit. That's just unworkable. You can't get a good collective group of people to represent all of those interests at the same time. So for this reason, no supervisors in this state have been able to collectively bargain as a cohesive unit in the past 4 years since we've had collective bargaining for state employees. And that's something we're trying to fix. Section 2 of this bill addresses that issue for Category 1, Category 2, and Category 3 supervisory officers. And if you refer to the amendment, you'll see what we're looking as a mock-up to put that into the statute, as well as firefighters, because we're also looking at their interest, and I think we have Mr. Todd Inglesby who'll be supporting that here. You better be, behind me. Now, by establishing separate bargaining units for these 4 supervisory occupational categories, we give them the opportunity to collectively bargain their wages, benefits, and working conditions within units that have community of interest with their own supervisory coworkers. Section 2 also has subsection 2, or subparagraph 2, you'll see, which mirrors language in NRS 288 that already applies to local government, city, county, if you will, peace officers under NRS 288.140, and which we simply want to extend to state peace officers. It simply states in that subsection that any bargaining unit established for state peace officers must be composed exclusively of peace officers. Once again, this maintains the community of interest of peace officer bargaining units. Very simple. And for these reasons, very shortly and very simply, we ask for your support of SB 166. Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblyman Brian Hibbets, HIBBETTS, Assembly District 13, for the record. I would like to thank the panel for having me today. I will keep my remarks very short, thanks to Mr. McCann's excellent presentation of the bill and the amendment. When I learned of Senator Pezzina's bill, I asked very quickly if I could be a primary co-sponsor because I believe in this, as I retired as a peace officer supervisor. I spent approximately 14 and a half years supervising police officers. I can tell you from my perspective, having the separation between not only the supervisors and their employees in a separate bargaining unit, but the supervisors and the non-police personnel in their own bargaining unit was instrumental in our success, being able to do what we needed to do. Therefore, I urge you to consider this bill and pass it. Thank you.
And I don't know if you wanted to walk through a little bit about your proposed amendment, and I don't know if you wanted to have Fire come up.
Thank you so much,
They're
Julie.
better looking than me. They can sit here.
Julie Pezzina for the record, and to walk you through the proposed amendment. essentially, when you look at Section 2 of NRS 288.515, and you go down to J, you'll notice that supervisory employees from all occupational groups other than categories 1, 2, or 3 peace officers and firefighters was added. And then when you go down to L, supervisor employees who are category 1 peace officers, period. And then with the amendment M, supervisory employees who are category 2 peace officers and supervisor employees who are category 3 peace officers. So it separates them out into 1, 2, and 3. And then O, supervisor employees who are firefighters. And that is the proposed amendment. Thank you.
And I don't know if you want to provide some perspective as to why firefighters need that, and just kind of walk us through a little bit of what's happening now.
Good afternoon, Chair Flores, committee, Todd Inglesby, President of Professional Firefighters Nevada. We currently represent India firefighters, which is through the state. Currently, we represent all their members except for the 18 supervisors, because the supervisors are lumped into a general supervisor's contract like Mr. McCann has spoke about. So this would allow them to negotiate a contract which affects how they do, just like our brothers and sisters have a current contract. And basically in all local municipalities, we currently have a supervisor, non-supervisory contracts. This would give them the same benefit that most of our municipalities here in the state do as well. And again, we just want to thank, obviously, Senator Pazina and Assemblyman Hibbets for bringing this important legislation forward. And thank you for your consideration. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer any.
And thank you for the presentation. I appreciate you matching, by the way. You all coordinated. With that, we'll open it up, members, for questions. Senator Daley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question's for Rick, I think. Or I should say, Mr. McCann. So, just a couple of quick questions, if I can, and I understand where you're at when we did the collective bargaining for state employees, and on page 3, section 2, subsection 1, you have A through, I believe it's F, and the different categories of employees for employees as separate potential bargaining units, which anybody could go in across jurisdictions and departments and various things. And I think those groups probably do have a continuity of interest in various things, and there have been agreements that have been negotiated for that. So what you're trying to do is separate out the supervisory positions, which was just in one lump sum for everything, for firefighters and the 3 levels of peace officers. So I think that works. I know in the public sector, or excuse me, in the private sector, under the National Labor Relations Act, there's a body of law. It's a little bit different because it's not as captive audience and stuff like that, where there's whole sections in case law on how you establish a bargaining unit. You said the magic words, community of interest and those types of things. There's no corresponding thing in the EMRB or the Employee Management Relations Board, no set of rules to make those determinations. I think this is the way to do it, but there isn't any such process set up under the EMRB.
Rick McCann, for the record, thank you for the question. May I go through the chair? Thank you. Senator, thank you for the question. There are certain requirements within the EMRB for the public employees. We do deal with the term I use, community of interest, and it is frowned upon generally to try to have supervisors in the same bargaining units as the people whom they supervise. So similar to what you're comfortable with and are used to by your own experiences, we have the same situation in our world.
Yeah, agreed. In fact, in the private sector, they don't allow supervisors to bargain in most cases as well, and sometimes the term is used. So supervisors are allowed. I think that's the way to go. My last question, and I support the bill, sign on to it. I support the firefighters being in it. I think fixing the problem is necessary, and we'll let the other supervisory categories, whichever union might be representing them, that has an issue, to bring their own bill at a later time. So the only question is, and you said, I think the answer to the question is that there's been no collective bargaining among supervisors anywhere in the state, so passing this bill is not going to interfere with any collective bargaining agreement that may or may not have been negotiated. It's wide open, and this would create a lane for what you need to do, which I think is appropriate. So,
For the record, Rick McCann, through the chair, yes. Everything you said, Senator, thank you.
Members, any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you all for the presentation. And next, I'd like to invite those wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 166 to please come forward, either in Las Vegas or Carson City. I think we just got a couple of people in Las Vegas, so we'll go ahead and start in Las Vegas whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. My name is Carla Scott, and I'm currently an employee by Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I am here serving as the president of Las Vegas Police Protective Association Civilian Employees, and I would like to say that we are in support of SB 166, and we appreciate your consideration and support for this bill as we see that there's value for this for our association. Thank you.
And thank you. Next, we'll stay in Las Vegas, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us here today. My name is Kelly Richter, Kellyricchter. I'm an employee of the LVMPD as well, and I just wanted to state that this bill would go a long way in supporting the civilian law enforcement professionals and supervisors. And I just wanted to thank you for your time.
And thank you for joining us. Anybody else in Las Vegas? I don't believe there's anybody else. We'll come back to Carson City. Whoever wishes to go first, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Sean Gallagher. I'm the president of the Nevada State Law Enforcement Officers Association. I represent many officers employed by the state. I'm involved in negotiations and representing them there. I'm sure in some instances this might be considered a very pro-union bill or pro-labor bill. I would submit to you that this is really just a pro-efficiency bill. All of you here as the lawmakers have a lot of work to do, and I would like to think that a lot of this administrative stuff and the minutia that you guys sometimes have to get caught up in, it would be better if the unions and the state HR can just work out all the stuff, all the contract stuff, and then essentially the money and the pay bills come to you, and that's what you can be focused on. So you're paying more attention, I think, to all of the issues at hand that are affecting our great citizens of the state. And I think that this bill does that because right now it creates, I'm sure it was an unintended consequence, but it creates some inequity in the system. In addition to being the president of this association, I myself am also a state employed law enforcement officer. And as it sits right now, what would be the incentive for me to promote? I mean, as the state, when I say you, I say the state has invested money in me and time in me to create me as a law enforcement professional. It would seem to reason that you would want me to then stick around and promote and also engage in the supervisory skills that you've invested in me. But if I know that if I promote, I don't have any say at the table. I don't get to talk about my pay or wages with anyone, like the officers that I would be supervising. There's no incentive for me to promote. And in fact, I know that this is new to the state, but I mean, I've already had many of the supervisors in the state that are members of mine that have said, well, if this doesn't go through, I'm just going to devote myself. I mean, like, why would I stay a supervisor? There's no reason for me to. And I'm sure that wasn't the intended consequence of putting collective bargaining at the state level. So I think this is really just kind of a housekeeping thing. And once we get all this stuff ironed out, it's not something I think we're going to have to keep bringing back to you as the legislators to keep dealing with, except for the contract part of it at the end, which I think is just more efficient. So I'm not really sure that the partisanship or the politics of it really, at the end of the day, we should all just want to be efficient about it. And I think that's the benefit for all the parties that are interested. Thank you very much for your time.
And thank you for your testimony. Please.
For the record, Anthony Gonzalez, Vice President, Nevada State Law Enforcement Officers Association. I hate to follow that up because my president here summed it up pretty well, but I think this SB 166 fills the gap that needs to be addressed. Really encompasses all of the supervisors that up to this point have not been able to collectively bargain. I mean, it fills a need that has been there for quite some time. I know as a non-supervised employee, just, line staff, we've had the benefits of having a contract over the past 2 years. And I've seen the impact that it has on the supervisors, just seeing, our unit get certain perks and things that we've collectively bargained. And that, that has a lasting effect. So I think this will remedy a situation and a problem that we was probably just a slight oversight at the first go round. So I believe that this will really address an issue, or propose a solution to a problem that had, like my president said, unintentional consequences from before. So I'm in support of this bill, and I believe our union is as well. So thank you for your time.
And thank you. Welcome, please.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Troyce Krumie, that's Troyce, last Krumme, and I am the current Vice Chairman of the Las Vegas Police Managers and Supervisors Association, here to testify in support of Senate Bill 166. This issue addresses an issue that exists specifically at the state level and should be fixed for that individual group. Currently, there appears to be some confusion amongst the civilian employment amongst police organizations, and specifically at the supervisory level of state law enforcement only. As the Vice Chairman of a Police Supervisors Association and the lead bargaining member in the last two contract negotiations, I can say that it runs relatively smoothly at the local level, and look forward to our state counterparts enjoying the same unconfused collective bargaining that we do in Metro. Thank you.
And thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 166? Good afternoon, sir. Whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. I'm John Abel. I'm the current Government Affairs Director of the Las Vegas Police Protective Association. Here to testify in support of SB 166 as the bill that addresses an issue specifically at the state level and should be affixed to that individual group. Thank you.
And thank you. Whoever wishes to go next.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for hearing this bill today. My name is Randy Saltero. For the record, Randy Saltero, representing the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. We'd like to thank the bill sponsor, all the folks involved in this. We had great discussions, and although there was some difficulty in trying to get some things passed last session, we found our way to work together, and we are fully supporting this bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman Flores and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Susie Martinez, and I am the Executive Secretary Treasurer of the Nevada State AFL-CIO. With over 150,000 members and 120 unions, the Nevada AFL supports Senate Bill 166. We know that our law enforcement officers work hard every single day to protect our community across Nevada. However, the civilian employees that work within each department often don't get the recognition that they deserve. This bill would extend workers' protections to such civilian employees by ensuring that they aren't misclassified as supervisors and can still participate in union activities. To the point, we wholeheartedly believe that supervisors should have the right to join a union just like regular employees can. That's why this bill critically creates separate bargaining units for state law enforcement supervisors so that they can collectively bargain and receive the full rights and benefits that they deserve. We must make sure that everyone can freely and fairly participate in unionization activities, and this bill is an essential next step to ensuring that every employee can be protected in their workplace. I strongly urge the committee to support Senate Bill 166. Thank you.
And as you all know, our former Assemblywoman and I used to share a wall, and it was an honor to work with you in this building, and it's great to see you in your capacity now.
Thank you very much. Happy to be back.
Whoever wishes to go next.
Kent Irvin, KENT-ERVIN, Nevada Faculty Alliance. We support SB 166 as amended. Our colleagues in the campus police in the Southern Command and Northern Command at the Nevada System of Higher Education are Category 1 peace officers. It makes sense for their supervisors to have their own bargaining unit because they meet the community of shared interest standard, which is a big stretch if they are in the same unit as supervisors for other categories of classified employees. Also, we have big vacancies among the campus police. They have a hard time keeping people and keeping their police force, and anything that helps keep them on the force is a good thing. Thank you.
And thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. Ricky Gourier with Tri-Strategies on behalf of the Nevada Police Union, the union representing all Category 1 peace officers in the state. We want to thank Senator Pazina for bringing this forward, and especially the carve-out of the supervisors in the different units, the different classifications, Category 1, Category 2, and Category 3. But for every other reason, I'll just say ditto.
And thank you. We like ditto here. Whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Fran Alvarez. I am here today representing Teamsters Local 14, and I will say ditto. Thank you.
It's great seeing you. Thank you. Anybody else wishing to testify in support of Senate Bill 166? Seeing none in person, BPS, can we please go to the phone?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support of SB 166, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, for the record, Carter Bundy, registered lobbyist with AFSCME. We want to thank Senator Pazina and Assemblyman Hibbets for their sponsorship of this bill. For the reasons previously stated, we are in full support of the bill with these amendments. And we also want to thank, of course, Rick McCann, Todd Inglesby, and the other people that have worked with us to bring this to a good place. Thank you so much.
And thank you. Anyone else wishing to join us via phone in support of Senate Bill 166?
Hi, this is Dolly Jones. I am a Cat 2 supervisor with the Nevada Youth Parole Bureau and support the Senate bill. Thank you.
And thank you. Anyone else on the phone?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. This is Marlene Lockhart with SEIU 1107. We are a Me Too. Thank you.
And thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify in support?
Chair, you have no more callers wishing to testify in support at this time.
Thank you. And now we'll go to those wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 166, Las Vegas or Carson City. Seeing none, do we have anybody on the phone, BPS?
If you would like to testify in opposition of SB 166, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. And last, anybody wishing to join us to speak in the neutral position? We do have somebody in Las Vegas whenever you're ready.
Thank you. My name is Bruce Snyder. For the record, I'm the Commissioner of the Government Employee Management Relations Board. Just want to talk briefly about Section 2 of the bill, in which we are neutral. Just want to give a little history. When Senate Bill 135 was first drafted back in 2019, it provided 10 bargaining units. And each of those 10 bargaining units was to include both supervisory employees and rank and file employees. I was brought in as a technical resource to the governor's office to look at potential pitfalls of that bill. And one of the things pointed out was that at the local government level, supervisors had their own separate bargaining unit apart from the rank and files to avoid conflict of interest situations. So one of the things that was changed in Senate Bill 135 was to create a separate supervisory bargaining unit. There were various alterations considered. One was to have a separate supervisory bargaining unit for each of the 10 rank and file units. That was considered too many. It was also considered to have 2 supervisory bargaining units, one for uniformed employees such as police and fire, and one for your regular white and blue collar employees. In the end, for right or wrong, the bill as passed provided for 1 supervisory bargaining unit, and that would be consisting of no matter what type of a supervisor you were. So the MRB stands ready. Whatever this body thinks best, we are willing and very able to support administering whatever decision this committee and the full legislature thinks is best as to should there be separate supervisory bargaining units for police and fire. But that's just a little of the history as to how we got where we are today.
And thank you for that. We'll go to the gentleman to your left, please.
My name is Al Rojas. I live in Assembly District 12, Senate District 21, and I'm neighbors with Senate District 2 and Mr. Donante. I'm kind of neutral on this just because of but I do want to emphasize that for you guys, for you people who are the decision makers, see this as a vision. I have a vision for our community which defines a law-abiding community in which law-abiding citizens and law enforcement have the upper hand. And I ask that you take that definition in your guidance, and it appears that most of the people in law enforcement seem to support this bill. And so since I'm not very knowledgeable in law enforcement, I don't want to take a position, but I do want to take the position that you put law-abiding citizenship and the safety of our community first, and to encourage people to make it so that people want to become policemen. Because we have a 30% understaffed law enforcement force here in Clark County, and we're losing officers. And so we want to make it appealing so that people come and become law officers. And the more we have that gap where law enforcement and law-abiding citizens have the advantage over the criminal element, that is going to make it more appealing, and we want to keep that margin. So it appears that people like this bill, but since I'm not very knowledgeable, I want to stay in my lane, but I do want to offer my definition where law-abiding citizens and law enforcement maintain the upper hand. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Anybody else wishing to testify in the neutral position? Seeing none, BPS, do we have anybody wishing to join us on the phone?
Testify neutral on SB 166. Please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good evening, Cyrus, CYRUS. I do support our law enforcement, and there's a lot of great things about this bill. I'm just concerned about it because I hear the term collective bargaining, and I just fear that we don't follow in the footsteps of states like California, New York, Illinois, with high salaries, high pensions. Correct me if I'm wrong. And this results in high taxes, and we have constant articles of people leaving those states like crazy in the hundreds of thousands every year. Not to mention, I'm also concerned about this state, considering that it used to be among the fastest growing states. And given our policy changes in the last few years, we're no longer in the top 10. So correct me if I'm wrong. Please consider my concerns. And other than that, yield my time.
And thank you for joining us. Anybody else wishing to join us over the phone for Senate Bill 166, neutral position?
Chair, you have no more callers that are neutral at this time.
Thank you. And with that, Senator, any closing remarks you may have?
Julie Pizzina for the record.
In closing, I'd really like to thank you for the opportunity to present Senate Bill 166. I think it's so important because it gives our civilian employees an opportunity to join their brothers and sisters in collective bargaining, but also it gives those supervisors the opportunity to join those that have been working with them for so long. And on a personal note, it's hard to hear someone say, what is their incentive to be promoted to a supervisory level? So I thank you so much for hearing us present, and I urge you to support this important legislation. Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us again. With that, we'll go ahead and close out the hearing on Senate Bill 166. And last, we have public comment. Anybody wishing to join us for public comment, either in Carson City or Las Vegas? Seeing none. Oh, I think we do have somebody in Las Vegas. Good afternoon, welcome, whenever you're ready.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Margaret Ann Coleman. I'm placed under hardship matter for 43 years now. This is due to an employee injury on the job at the Golden Nugget Casino, supposed to gotten paid by the payroll department. The conduct and misconduct, all money collected by all under a conspiracy of the state staff of the government, embezzling me just to take over my living arrangements and my workman's pension compensation and my pension to overthrow my court order 1 March 4th, 1982 and October 14th, 1981. This is due to non-compliance by Deputy Administrative Staff. Deputy Shannon Moore Hughes used me for her self-alliance and taken my name for herself to keep all amount. I am a citizen of the United States and of Nevada. They have only wanted to kick me outside because of my color as a woman and using the insurance policy of the insurer contract issued to pay injured employee under a summons, all lump sum, credit and due, going on for 43 years now, placing themselves under contempt of court of A 204984. Now they're blaming me, Margaret Ann Coleman, for standing up for equal rights under the Bill Act on collection on my behalf for injured party on the job of the legislation, Marilyn Kirkpatrick and all the board members, due to the employment contract signed January 31st, 1980 as a slot personnel. I have been deprived, and today, 2023, since 1980, I haven't received nothing.
Ma'am, thank you for sharing your story. I think it may be wise for you to reach out to our staff, and maybe we can help point you in the right direction, either whether it be a state agency and or whomever who could potentially help you with your issue. Feel free to reach out directly to our staff, and we will try to direct you to the correct agency or individuals that can help.
Do you think Consumer Affair would? Do you think Consumer Affair could help?
I don't want to misguide you now, but if you email me, what we can do is direct you to the right agency.
I don't know you.
Edgar Flores, right there.
Edward Flores, excuse me.
Yes, no worries. I'll have our staff there in Las Vegas to provide you with my email and my office number, and we can then hopefully coordinate and hopefully direct you in the right direction. Thank you for joining us today. Sitting next to you, please.
I do appreciate you, and my name is Margaret Coleman.
Margaret, we'll speak soon. Next, we'll go with the gentleman sitting to your left.
My name
please.
is Al Rojas. And like I mentioned before, for the record, I live in Senate District 21, neighbors with Senate District 2, and Senate District of Senator Del Nantes. I wanted to bring attention to your task force there, or to your group, that I've been talking, I'm involved in the community, and I've been talking to a lot of the people that are citizens and people that are leaders. And there seems to be an interest in what I call a homeless task force forum summit in an effort to have a more safer community, which I define as one in which law-abiding citizens and law enforcement have the upper hand over criminals. Unfortunately, everybody agrees that people are using the word homelessness to be a giant tent, which includes people that have mental problems, people that have health problems and handicaps that can't get a job, people who've lost their jobs and are trying to get back in the game, and people who are just loitering and looking for opportunities to rip people off. And as you know, there's an increase in people stealing catalytic converters, breaking into cars, and I had my car broken into and stolen. Luckily, we got it back because we got a great law enforcement, and we were able to track them down by them using my credit cards. But when I went to do my report, another lady was telling me she wanted to go walk her dog at a walk park, and when she came back, they broke into her car and stole her purse. So I've been talking to people that are in the police department. I can't say who, people that are in the firefighting department, people who have a background in criminal justice, people who are judges, people who are therapists, and they all think that somewhere down the road, we should have a yearly task force where people of all these disciplines in policing, mental, criminal, concerned citizens, FBI for security theft, because they stole my security, and I'm going to be filing FBI postal that got into my mail. They're actually going into the post office and picking up my mail with my ID. So we need to have a safer community. You know that we're going to be hosting the Super Bowl, and we are the entertainment capital of the world, and we want to keep it safe for our community. Nobody wants to come to a community where they get ripped off and they're concerned about their safety. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that hopefully maybe one of you guys can come up with a bill, or maybe I can supply a bill, but I want you to know that there's an interest for a task force, and eventually somewhere down the line, the fact that we have so many homeless people, we're eventually going to have to go there and break this problem up into manageable pieces. Usually when problems are unmanageable, as a retired electronics degreed engineer with 2 patents, I know you have to know how to break a problem into its pieces. And I just wanted to bring that, and I'm glad that there's a lot of law enforcement people there listening, and they probably would agree that, like some of the others, that this may be a good first approach, and that somewhere down the road, we're going to need something like this for the state of Nevada. Thank you very much.
And thank you for joining us. You'll learn that particularly within our committee, will have numerous bills discussing our homeless population, and hopefully you can participate in that process as well. And then feel free to reach out to my office. I know there are local jurisdictions who now have some version of a task force that you could potentially engage in conversation. So feel free to reach out as well to us so we can put you in contact with them. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you very much, sir.
Anybody else wishing to join us for public comment? BPS, do we have anybody on the phone?
If you would like to speak in public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, you have no one wishing to speak in public comment at this time.
Thank you. And with that, members, we will again be meeting on Wednesday, and it is again my intent for us not to have a meeting on Friday. I say that now so that you can all preemptively get ready for whatever you may have in terms of family and other responsibilities outside of this building. So again, it's my intent for us not to meet this Friday, so hopefully you can plan accordingly with your families. I will see you all on Wednesday. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you, members.